did you know that the Anne Frank, yes, the little girl that hid in an attic for quite some time during the Nazi occupied Netherlands, hid away and was eventually captured and killed? Did you know that the Anne Frank, according to the dingbats at Pink News, because they've got nothing better to do with their time, they seem to believe that Anne Frank was lesbian or bisexual. Not that we remotely care at all, but we already know that the Pink News, you don't even want to call them journalists at this point. They're just a bunch of pro LGBT, really radical leftist types that use a platform to spread a bunch of nonsense that, if anything has an inkling to do with LGBT matters, they're into it. Doesn't matter if it's historical or if it's to do with the Anne Frank, the 15-year-old girl. I will say again, the 15-year-old girl that apparently knew her sexuality and she wrote about it in her diary, the Diary of Anne Frank. And let's not talk about anything else that she wrote about in that diary, but let's go towards what she was supposedly alluding to, her very sexuality and nature. Oh my goodness. If you are writing an article about this, perhaps you've got a problem, Josh Jackman, and the editor allowing this to actually be published on the website, for example. Oh, let's use Anne Frank's name and let's tarnish it. Now, if you are diving into a 14 or a 15-year-old sexuality, you've got a problem. You really do. They're not even of age yet. Seriously. And you're worried about whether they were having lesbian or bisexual thoughts. And it's of Anne Frank, no less. Have some respect and decency. But no, Pink News has definitely got to create false narratives, let's say. Was Anne Frank lesbian or bisexual? Her diary certainly proves she was attracted to girls. Huh. This is interesting. Holocaust victim and famous diarist Anne Frank was attracted to girls. Was she? Really? Okay, let's look into this even further. The Jewish teenager whose diary became one of the most read first-person accounts of the Holocaust wrote about her sexuality in sometimes censored passage. Well, if she was certainly most attracted to girls, why did she write about it in censored passages? Perhaps. Could it be that you guys are alluding to something that's not actually there? I wonder. Anne and her family attempted to escape the Nazi regime but were trapped, hiding in Amsterdam. They were discovered by the Nazis in 1944 and transported to concentration camps. Anne died at age 15 in Bergen-Belsen, not long before the Allies liberated the camp. Earlier this year, people all over the world drew parallels between the Muslim ban in the US and the struggles of Jewish people, including Anne, who tried to find refuge in the US during World War II. Funny how those two are somewhat parallel, right? Somewhat equal. It's amazing to me how you can get Muslim ban in the US to the struggle of Jewish people when we know Muslims hate the Jews. They're two polar opposite things. But okay, let's try and draw a parallel between them, shall we? Nuts. Anne and her family, including her father Otto, her mother Edith, and sister Margaret, attempted to obtain US visas. And the family story was recalled as thousands of Muslims were turned away at the border. I love how Pink News tries to, make up stuff that's not actually there and draw parallels that are not actually there. Shows very low IQ, if you ask me. Anne wrote in the diary she kept while trapped that psychologist Sis Heister had stated that girls of this age don't feel quite certain of themselves. They discover that they themselves are individuals with ideas, thoughts, and habits. Okay, what's that got to do with one's sexuality at the age of 15? Anyway, she wrote that the psychologist had said, and continued, after I came here when I was just 14, I began to think about myself sooner than most girls and to know that I am a person. Okay, you are indeed a person. Everyone is a person. But of course, Pink News will go, oh, she was queer. She was using the non-binary stuff. I don't, nah, come on. Sometimes when I lie in bed at night, I have terrible desires or a terrible desire to fill my breasts and listen to the quiet rhythm beat of my heart. Okay. You're a growing girl. It's like a boy, for example, may lie in bed, is, going through puberty. Like this kind of stuff is somewhat normal to explore. You're a 14 or a 15-year-old kid, for goodness sake. But Pink News, oh, even Anne Frank was apparently a lesbian or bisexual. So therefore, it's okay, ladies and gentlemen. If I'll say it again, if you are looking at or even alluding to a child's sexuality, or I'm putting that in the quotation marks because it's not definite at all that Anne Frank, and neither should we care. The poor thing passed away. I think these guys are missing the absolute point. But anyway, speaking about her best friend, Jacqueline Van Marsen, the teenager continued, I already had these kinds of feelings subconsciously before I came here. She added, I remember that once when I slept with a girlfriend, I had a strong desire to kiss her and that I did do so. Right? What person hasn't had a dream or some desire to experiment or explore? Like you're going through puberty, for goodness sake. All kinds of crazy stuff goes through your head. I could not help being terribly inquisitive over her body, for she had always kept it hidden from me. Again, I will say, you got to love Pink News, right? How they're trying to use this to further their own agenda. I asked her whether, as proof of our relationship, we should feel one another's breasts, but she refused. Okay, that doesn't make her a lesbian. But anyway, Anne added, I go into ecstasies every time I see the naked figure of a woman, such as Venus, for example. It strikes me as so wonderful and exquisite that I have difficulty in stopping the tears rolling down my cheeks. If only I had a girlfriend. There we go. There's the bam. If only I had a girlfriend. She was definitely lesbian or bisexual. Definitely that. Let's go with, okay, because she said it in her diary, people. All right. On the official Anne Frank website, Jacqueline wrote about her relationship with Anne. We had a close relationship and I liked being with her, but she laid a claim on me and I didn't know how to handle that. She continued, I always had to prove to her that we were best friends. Her passionate declaration of friendship were too much for me sometimes. Then I met up with other friends and she was just jealous and unhappy. Years later, I read that she had written about this in her diary. But before she went into hiding, I had been able to tell her where the limits were. She accepted this and it only improved our friendship and made it stronger. Anne also wrote about her friend Peter in the diary, saying it gave me a wonderful feeling when I looked into his dark blue eyes and saw how bashful my unexpected visit had made him. I could read his innermost thoughts, and in his face I saw a look of helplessness and uncertainty as to how to behave, and at the same time a flicker of awareness of his masculinity. So she's a young girl exploring things, going through puberty yet again. She continued, I saw his shyness and I melted. Here's where we get the bisexual stuff from, people, if you weren't already aware. I wanted to say, tell me about yourself. Look beneath my chatty exterior. So because Anne was liking the female body or admiring the female body and thought about wanting a girlfriend, that automatically makes her a lesbian into Pink News. And she also liked men. So to Pink News, she's a young girl, for goodness sake. She doesn't know what Arthur or Martha is. You're not supposed to know. You're a kid. Like, good grief. The amount of pressure that Anne would have been under, no doubt. But Pink News, once again, We know more than you. This is a big step for the LGBT community. Far out. And never defined her sexuality, probably because she was 15 years old and she couldn't care less. She had more important things to worry about. Ever thought about that? And it may not have been the most important fact about her. No shit, Sherlock. You don't say. She was a teenage refuge after all. Yes, so therefore you shouldn't be writing an article about it. Ever thought about that, Jack? But it is important to shed light on times historical figures have expressed same, what attraction. Why? What good does that do me or you? As Twitter user Rachel has pointed out, the passage is rarely discussed and not widely known. There's probably damn well good reason why it's not widely discussed or known about. Gee, I've already rattled off several reasons as to why it's not well known or even spoken about. But Pink News, for sure, very low IQ. Ladies and gentlemen, here's a historical moment for you all. Anne Frank never defined her sexuality, but it's still important to discuss a 15-year-old girl that was murdered by the Nazis. Still got to discover or talk about her sexuality because that's important to your day and my day. There is enough straight washing of history. There's a term that you love to hear, isn't it? Straight washing. Yeah, okay. So everyone in history, ladies and gentlemen, according to Pink News, was straight. No, if you look at history, there was a lot of crazy stuff that went on in the Victorian era, you name it. It was a wild time. But that still doesn't negate the fact that you should not be talking about a 15-year-old's desires. It's creepy and it's weird. Stop. The director of the Royal, here we go, Shakespeare Company, said in 2017 that William Shakespeare may have been gay. Artistic director Greg Duran confirmed long-running rumors that the playwright was likely to be homosexual, adding that the Victorians changed his work to hide the truth. Oh, did they? Right, okay. Interesting. I wonder why they did that. So Romeo and Juliet was a homosexual play changed by the Victorians, people. So it's really about Romeo and Romeo. I'm going to say another name, but anyway, I won't. It wasn't about Juliet, people. Let's just say that. Anyway, Doran said also that a number of plays written by Shakespeare include LGBT whatever characters, which the company can no longer ignore. In 2015, a US radio host compared the plight of a pizzeria, which said it would not provide pizzas for a same-you-know-what wedding, to Anne Frank, saying gays trap good-hearted American families in their homes. All right, I'm done with this. Goodness me, Pink News. They need to honestly get a grip on reality or just life itself. They're bloody dingbats. That's all I've got to say about that. Maybe they should delete the article from their website. It may be a good idea because if I can see that this article is a problem, other people are going to as well. Anyway, that's enough from me. You guys take care. Be blessed, and I'll see you all in the next video.